Guru Nation, welcome back to another episode of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru. I have Lucia Rodriguez on. She is a clinical research professional from Phoenix. She's going to be on my one of my SOS panels. She's a panelist that's been carefully hand selected by Judy Galindo. So shout out to Judy. And she's Lucia, someone I've never met, despite being in the same state, but we'll work on that. Maybe SOS will be the first time we'll meet. But she's a research director at Evolve Clinical Research. She's also been an independent research consultant. She's worked at other sites throughout Arizona, including the University of Arizona, which my alma mater, and we'll forgive you for going to ASU, but it's okay. Uh, how's it going, Lucia?
Pretty good, pretty good. Just getting the year started. The
Happy New
site that
Year.
I'm currently in was remodeled over the holiday weekend, so we're trying to get all of our lab fully set up again and all of our binders and everything put back into place. It's been busy.
So as a site director, right? The site director. I mean, you and I are basically the same role. Can you tell me a little bit about your site, how it's set up, and then maybe just a little bit about like the history of your career and what got you to this point?
Yeah, so I've been working at the site level for it's going to be 13 years next month. And I've actually stayed at the site level. I kept trying to dip my feet into maybe becoming a monitor, would go to interviews and just cannot leave the site. I have made it my career choice to just that's what I enjoy. So um I actually started Evolve Clinical Research back in 2021. March of 2021 is coming up to 3 years, because I have worked with doctors who had expressed interest. They knew that I was working in research and they were like, why are you not, what, like, we're going to start our own practice. Can you help us do that? And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I know how to run the trials, but I wouldn't know how to get a whole site off the ground. And actually, watching one of your videos to going into work, talking about how to set up a site, and I was like, maybe I could do it, and maybe I do have all the tools necessary. So that's actually how we got Evolve Clinical Research started with our pain management doctors who um, two of them had gone to medical school together. One of them is a friend in-law, actually, that started their own practice, and they were like, we're getting our clinic off the ground. They were like a year into their own practice. Let's give clinical trials a try. They had been sub-Is in studies and the practices they were before when they were doing their training. And that's actually how we got started. So that's how the model was established. Like, now we're up to 7 sites, trying to get studies for some of them, but 4 of them already have multiple trials going. And
Wait,
we have,
7 sites?
yes, and
Wow.
all of them have been doc the investigators letting other their friends, colleagues know, like, oh, this is what we're doing, who we're working with. And that's how I've gotten connected. Like, I actually haven't gone out yet to try to find investigators. Might do that for dermatology. Really trying to get some dermatology trials going. But so far we haven't had to. We're doing some neurology, neuromuscular disorders specifically, pediatrics, family medicine, and pain management.
Interesting. Okay, so these doctors, when they set up their group, they knew you from, or you said one was like a distant relative or something, or?
He's married to one of my best friends.
Oh, okay,
And yeah,
gotcha.
so they're actually two. The sisters married two anesthesiologists, and they partner in their clinic. So I knew them separately, and they're the ones who approached me first about it. Who were just like, "Why don't you do it?" And I was like, "I don't have an answer." But I was like, "Can I do
So
it?"
you essentially became like a business partner with these
Mhm,
doctors.
mhm.
Congrats. That's much, in my opinion, not for everyone out there, much better than being a CRA. I I think you made the right choice. So
I
welcome.
really like it. It's been 3 years and I haven't had a day where I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, I'm still enjoying it. There's still so much to do, there's so much to learn. So
Yeah, it's rewarding, but it is a lot of work and it's stressful in its own way. So it's really cool when I find like other site owners slash site directors that, get their hands dirty, still. And it looks like we started the sites around the same time too, because
Hmm.
mine was 21 also when I moved here summer, and then it was winter, like December, we got our first SIV. It was a bad study, but we got it. Um, so yeah, like the struggle is real, and at SOS, we're gonna be discussing a lot of things, but one of the most important things, in my opinion, because you can't scale it, you can't do everything yourself, just like I can't do
Absolutely.
everything myself. You need staff, and good staff doesn't, especially coordinators, they don't fall from the sky. How did you like, can you walk me through the process of like when you got your first coordinator and how you found them, and then because that's kind of what our panel is going to be about, is identifying first and then training. So can you walk me through like a little bit of that?
Yeah, so the first coordinator who joined, so at first I was working with some contractors. So from one of my close friends, would I met her in clinical research while we were both working as coordinators at U of A actually. And she moved to Phoenix for nursing school. And while she was doing nursing school, she was able to help me as a contractor here and there. But that again, that's not once we got the first study, that wasn't sustainable because I was doing consulting to kind of fund, my own salary.
Yep.
So when we got the first study, that was what we started in March 2021. August was when we had the need to hire the first coordinator, and it was someone who I knew from before. Didn't came in with no clinical research experience, had some healthcare experience more on the insurance side of things. So came in with like some medical knowledge, no direct patient experience. So that was the first person that I had to train, who is now helping me, has been with us for, it's going to be 3 years in August, has been
Hmm.
helping us train other coordinators. And we always talk about like, remember when we started with you where there was really not a whole lot of direction. I mean, she was so patient with that, but we also were not as busy as we are now. So there was a lot of hands-on training, a lot of time dedicated to just one-on-one training, which
Hmm.
now we lost some of that luxury to be able to do that as we get busier and we have more studies and don't it's a whole different pace. So since
Did
then,
What did you see in this person? Like you knew them already, but what characteristics was it about her that made you not hesitate to call her first?
her work ethic. So actually, at one at the clinic where I started clinical research, she actually had come in to help. They were going from paper to an EMR, and she had come. She was in college at the time. She had come and help like scan charts and um, started doing other things, right? Started doing other things. And I just saw that like if she would see, I don't know how to do this, I'm gonna learn it. And we'll sit there and come back, and um come back and be like, oh, okay, like last night I did research into this to be ready to do this the next day, right? And for me, a good coordinator has to be someone who's comfortable not knowing things, but has the drive to learn them because you're always going to. I've been doing this for 13 years and I'm like, I'm still learning. I'm still like, oh, wow, that hasn't come up before and now I have to learn it. So that was a big thing for me where I was like, okay, I know that this is someone who's going to be dedicated and who's going to want to learn it. And I all the coordinators, I tell them, I take them back. You have a video that it's about like it's over an hour long and it's research 101, like everything research, right? She's one of the few people that actually has come back and been like, oh, remember this video? Like I actually watched it, right? And I'm like, you know what? That's what they're doing with their own time. And again, it
Wow.
comes with that drive of wanting to learn. So that's a big thing. And I mean, she's been such a huge asset. She's actually our research manager now. Because she's learned so much of it, like the regulatory side, and just wants to learn every area of what we do. So
Yeah.
it does line up with perfectly well with what my thoughts were. Where I'm like, this is someone who's gonna always want to learn, which is so necessary for what we do.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, from what from my experiences, most of my hires are research naive. All of them at Yuma Clinical Trials, but in my entire career since '05, just about all of them were research naive. Maybe just a handful weren't. They all end up liking it. And like if this industry is funny in that sense that it's like once we're in it, we complain about things, but we all like it still, and we stick around. Like no one comes into research and then goes to another industry later. I'm sure it happens, but
Right.
it's not common in my experience, and they usually are lifers in this industry just because there's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of
Exactly.
career advancement. So that's really
There are so
interesting.
many different areas, there's so many different roles and so many different directions in which someone can grow that it's if you like clinical research, you will find something that keeps you in the field.
Yeah. So what you identified in her, you've worked with her in the past indirectly,
Mhm.
and you just remembered that was memorable. Like whatever she did, it was memorable enough to make you remember her later, like months later,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so
And
that's the work ethic and that curiosity to learn and the
and the same with you, like all of our research staff currently came in with no research experience. We did have one person who completed a clinical research program, and that's she came in to us right after that program. But besides her, nobody had actually done any type of training and clinical research. All have been research naive as well.
and you're so this is what really the panel is about. It's identifying first because you can identify we've had one person that was like a family hire
Mhm.
and it didn't work. They weren't that comfortable with tech and things like that. So despite the onboarding we have, it didn't work out. So it's the identification is critical, I think, before the onboarding, and a lot of people fail at that step because if you bring on the wrong person, either attitude wise or technology wise, and this person was great attitude, like very hardworking. It's just the technology wasn't clicking, and it's fast paced. I mean, this industry, once you get even one study, it's
Mhm. Mhm.
fast paced. Like there's a portal for this, portal for that. Check your email for this. As soon as you randomize your first patient, you get bombarded with emails from everyone. It's just if you can't pick up like those things, it's gonna be a very long journey for you
Oh yeah.
for the coordinator.
That's what we've had, I think, what we've struggled with, where it's like it's really hard to when someone's interviewing, of course they come super excited about clinical research. I've heard about it, I've been trying to get into it, especially when they're not just looking for a job, but they've been looking for a clinical research job, right? They come in super excited about, they at least they got an interview. A lot of people come in and being like, I keep applying and no one will even interview me, or like I interview and I'm not given the position because I don't have experience. So they do come in with that excitement. And I think it's really hard during the interview process to be able to relay what a clinical research coordinator does. Because we've actually had a couple of hires who have come in and just been like, this is too much. Like the clinical research is not for me. And because we're a smaller company, brand new sites, what we need is coordinators, right? So it's not, so we were able to be like, okay, you're more of like on the admin side of things and switch her to do regulatory help with data entry and things like that. But like the hands-on coordinating where it's like, I tell them, I'm like, okay, you know how to take vitals. Now you have to learn how to take vitals for clinical research and know that while you take them like this for this study requires this, and this other study requires something different, right? So it's having the whole, not every day looks the same, and the amount of knowledge that you have to know to go from one visit to another, and from one working with patients with a specific condition to another, and just having to wear multiple hats outside of just being a clinical research coordinator, right? Like there's so
Yeah.
much that it involves, not just seeing the patient, but even if when you're seeing the patient, there's so much that you have to learn to be able to effectively do those visits. So we
Yeah.
have had a couple of people that join again and come in, and what I tell them is like, while this side may not work for you, there might be other sites where it's going to work better with how you want to work and the role you want to have, and maybe not full on clinical research coordinator, right?
Yeah. It sounds like you're, and how many coordinators do you have right now?
So we currently have four coordinators and myself. I'm still very much functioning as a coordinator. And we actually have a clinical research coordinator joining Monday, a research assistant, and hopefully
Wow.
a research admin. Hopefully.
So you're
We have,
going from 4 to 7 like
yeah.
overnight.
Yes,
Okay.
and we since we hired our first coordinator, who's actually been a part of helping us create more of a training program. So
Mhm.
now we do have a lot more things in place that do help us get coordinators up and running. For the coordinators and research assistants, the research admin is a whole brand new role that we still have to, create the training for it
I'm
and what
curious
the
about
role is
that.
going to be all about.
I'm curious about that because I have the exact same number of staff, four coordinators and me, which is five, and which I'm still very much hands-on. And then my NP business partner, nurse practitioner, who's sometimes he acts like a coordinator too. So maybe it's six, but really, if we're both a half, then it's like five. But so far, everyone's like you said, has been a generalist. Like you're in here, we're specifically picked you. Like we had to go through 10 people to get you. They're all really good right now, the team. Like they're all generalists. They know like most of how to run every visit. But the admin, like so when you get to like streamlining and specializing, 'cause I've never done that, but I've always been curious to maybe specialize. Like what made you want to go from okay, like we'll have our core team of generalists, but now we'll have an admin. Like what made you want to do that? And then what's the goal with that?
So our coordinators are cross-trained. They come in and go to different clinics. And what we're finding, there are certain things that it's hard to have consistency on because, well, sometimes like today, for example, we have a rare clear day with no patients, where we're just going to be setting up our lab and getting this site fully set up again because it's our busiest site. But tomorrow we have a day where when we come in at 7 until we leave, we're working on patient visits and then wrapping up those visits at the end of the day, especially on a Friday, trying to get all the labs and everything out on time. So what we've seen is it places a strain on the coordinators to now have to worry about, oh, I'm in charge of sending reminder texts to the patients, right? Like at which point am I going to find the time to do that? Also, we like to send a reminder text in the morning in case the patients need to reschedule. There's anything that needs to happen. If we do it at the end of the day, we're not going to know until we come in Monday, like, oh, this patient actually canceled, this patient needed to reschedule, right? So we there are specific tasks that we're looking into, like data entry, for example, someone answering the phone or answering text messages to the patients, even just let them know your coordinator is busy, they're going to get back to you at this time. Things that right now it's taking time away from us seeing patients to have to step away and do that.
I
And
see.
that is coming, this role is actually coming a lot from like what the concerns of coordinators are voicing, where they're like, okay, I'm in charge of restocking the rooms, right? Or, getting the list ready for what supplies we need, but I'm not having time because our days are
Uh,
just so different. So it's a way to support the coordinators a little bit more because at the end of the day, the frontline, whoever's on the front line, it's going to be the ones that need the most support because those are the days that are going to be the least consistent, right? We plan for a visit for this is an hour visit approximately. The patient comes in, they may come in with an SAE, BI might be running really late, or might be running late, and then your day completely changes. So we're kind of focusing a little bit more on, okay, how do we alleviate those concerns for the coordinators and make sure that we're also staying consistent with certain things for the patients, right? Because sometimes the patients will text us and it's like 4 p.m. and they're like, hey, do I have an appointment tomorrow? Because I haven't gotten the text, right?
yeah.
So just because we being a clinical research coordinator, being in clinical research, not a single day looks like the other. We're trying to find someone who's able to not be working with patients directly so that they know, like, okay, I come in and at 8 a.m., right? I send all the reminder texts and there's not going to be anything getting in the way, like a patient coming in early, a patient coming in late, the PI's pulling them for something. So that's what we're envisioning for that role. We're all very excited about that. It's going to be nice to have certain things that we don't have to think about.
That's really cool. Yeah, because we run into that. Everything you mentioned is basically what we run into also. We've been like insanely busy, Lucia, since I mean, since like the last 5 months, but particularly since November, we've had like 3 visits a day nonstop. And, we've been screening, randomizing, and all this. And the other day, my lead CRC was going to be a co-panelist with you, Katie. She's like, hey, we got to stop screening for the study. We ran out of screening kits and we ran out of like the retest kits too. So I just ordered more. But we've been like so busy, we didn't realize that the kits were gone.
Exactly, exactly. Like, that just yesterday, the coordinator who, because that's the thing too, that, you're a coordinator, but then based on your personality, what you like to do, we're able to be like, okay, then you're in charge of this specifically, right? And the coordinator who's restocking the room, she was just like, I just don't have the time. It's not that I don't want to do it anymore. I just don't have the time. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I agree. But I'm like, help is coming, right? Like
So is
that's
this admin gonna do like pre-screening too?
not pre-screening. So that's
Okay.
also something that it depends on the study. We have certain studies. We actually just started working with contractors in December, because we have
Ah,
a
okay.
back pain study that we're getting lots and lots of referrals from the sponsor, from a center recruitment campaign that we're like, we don't want to lose that momentum. The PI is very, very, very much interested in becoming a top enroller on that, on the newsletter. So we're like, we got to get him a top enroller because he sees his colleagues there, and then he's like, how do we get in there, right? Higher, 90% screen failure rate, so it's a tough study, but we have to screen to be able to get patients in. So that's a study that is, we have contractors pre-screening for. So I've actually reached out to people that I know from working in clinical research before, where I'm like, are you looking for something on the side? Because a lot of those patients for that study specifically, if we call them during the day business hours, they're working.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, we need coverage after hours, but I cannot put that on the coordinators as well. So we've started working with contractors for pre-screening. We're actually I'm training someone this Saturday who's been doing clinical research
Wow.
for a few years, who's like, who's going to help us with the most complex trials. So what we've done is in December we started moving some of the easier trials to pre-screen for to the contractor, but now we're going to have someone who's going to be able to pre-screen more for like our neurology trials, because those are a bit tougher, a lot tougher actually to
Yeah.
pre-screen for. So we're kind of keeping we're the goal, we only done it for a month, has worked really well so far, but the goal is to have contractors helping us with the pre-screening.
Wow. Okay. So it's the four key staff and you that are like full-time employees. And now the research admin is coming on. It's gonna be a full-time.
Yes.
You have the contractors doing pre-screening. Anyone else I'm missing? You said data entry.
We have another research coordinator and another research assistant coming on.
Oh, so you're gonna go from 4 to like 6 full-time employees anytime now. Like,
So yeah, so it's going to be 7 for a little bit, but we have one coordinator who's leaving. She's actually going to stay on as a contractor to help us do unblinded pharmacy.
okay.
So that's another role that we have, not someone who is employed by us. We have 2 contractors now that are unblinded pharmacists,
Hmm.
because it's been tough, with
Yeah, we
only
have
4
that
of
too.
us, 5
Yep.
of us, losing someone to prepare medication, right? And they cannot do anything else. So
Yeah. You know those unblinded pharmacists, our PI, one of our studies that we're just closing out here soon, he suggested his medical assistant because at the time this study started, it was just me and 2 others, and we needed everyone to work on the study, so we needed it unblinded. So he suggested his MA, 2 of the MAs that work in the clinic. So they were good, but they were like they had no experience, and there was no real purpose in training them because they were never going to be my employees.
right, right.
So they were not used to like what the monitor wanted. They were like making mistakes like my staff would never do. And I'm thinking then the next unblind, like to have enough staff like you to where one of the unblinded pharmacists can be like our own people. And you're just not doing this study, but you're doing the other ones, but you're gonna be unblinded for the study.
Yeah, so we try something different, something similar to that, at different clinics. So for one of them, the study closed before we could even train. But that was the MA who will see the research people coming in because we're embedded into the clinics, and this was her first trial where she was just like, "How can like we help you? How can we do more?" So she approached the PI, and the PI approached us, and we're like, "Absolutely, we'll take the help." But we didn't have the opportunity at the neurology clinic though. This is the one where we have the most patients and the most studies that require an unblinded pharmacist. We do have something similar to that where a clinic staff is actually who does infusion, helps us as an unblinded pharmacist, but she's busy with her own infusions all day. So we have her as a backup where she helps us, like if we lose a contractor, because one of them is a pharmacy student, we might lose her when she graduates and moves on. She helps us train so that we can have that transition. But it helps to have someone on staff for all of the very specific, it's not just preparing the medication, but like the very research specific
Yeah.
paperwork and admin work that comes with it. So that's why it does pay off where we're like, okay, this coordinator cannot help us with this study, but they're going to be able to jump in and, while they're still coordinating, they're doing their own visits, someone else is preparing the medication, they're the ones who are handling the monitoring visits, the queries, the data entry that's necessary. Because some of the studies take like a whole hour, to prepare the medication. So we do save them that hour by having someone else come in and prepare it. But it's nice to have someone who's already trained on that study and on being an unblinded pharmacist on staff that can actually train whoever comes in as a contractor or a new coordinators that come in that function as an unblinded pharmacist.
Now, when you identify this, let's say the going back to the coordinator, right, the generalist, when you identify them, you say, okay, congrats, you're hired, you start tomorrow. What do you do and how long does it take? I'll give you an example. So at my site, I have a 3 month, like from day one. We're very hands-on. If it's not me, it's the lead CRC, Katie, who's going to be on the panel. Very hands-on for those first 3 months. If we feel like you're ready, let's say at month 1.5 or 2 to see a patient on your own, because up until that point you're like shadowing with people and we're explaining what's happening, then we'll let you see a patient visit on your own. Usually it's around month 3 that we're okay with. We're comfortable and like the person seems to get it. And then we increase the pay. So it's 3 month like probationary period, but then we increase the pay quite a lot actually at that third month. And then every 3 months we continue these reviews. And then I try to figure out what the person wants to do and see if there's like specializations within the generalist. What is that like for you? Like from day one, what is your goals? And then how do you kind of go about training?
Almost exactly the same as you just mentioned. So we're 3 months, and I think from listening to like lives and podcasts and all these things, I feel like 3 months tends to be the standard. We do put everyone on a probationary period the first 3 months. We don't have a training program. I call it a training checklist, where we've actually compiled a list of this are all the things that you need to be checked off on before we let you see a patient independently. Where before, so that is the same goal. We hire research assistants to be trained as research coordinators. Some people come in with experience that may not be clinical research, but we're like, but you're going to be someone who's going to transition into clinical research coordinator, within those 3 months. So we hire them as research coordinators right off the bat. But everyone has their own checklist where not everyone learns at the same pace. We did try to train two people at the same time, and they were just such different points that we decided that we're not doing that again. So now we have this checklist where we give it to them, are very transparent about until this gets checked off, we cannot move you to fully independent coordinator, right? So you're coordinator in training. And again, that comes with a drive. Like the current coordinator that started in November, is someone who she was even thinking about like, wait, but how do the holidays get into my opportunity to get signed off before the 3 months are up? Because again, it comes with being able to work independently on the visits without one of us shadowing you, and with a pay raise as well, a significant pay raise once they get signed off.
Mhm.
But again, they work on this list, and they decide, like, this is what I'm struggling with. Let's spend a little bit more time on this, or something where like vitals, for example, EKG, the hands-on things, it seems like everyone gets signed off a lot faster. So where they want to start with that, especially if they haven't had patient interaction with that, and they get like, they're like, oh my God, I got signed off on that very quickly. Maybe I can get through this list in a month, right? So they
Wow.
they they get through their own challenge. Like my current coordinator who's in training, she's like, I'm not going to take 3 months. Like, what do we need to do? So she's constantly being like, okay, like where do you think, like, the reason why I wasn't able to do this visit on my own. So she started in November, this week actually, where we at the end to be like, when we think someone may be ready to be signed off, we don't wait until the 3 months are up. So this week is when she started, where she has to do 5 visits without shadowing, without having, with the feedback. If she gets signed off in 5 visits, she's good to go. So she did visit one yesterday, and she was just like, okay, this was a short visit, but then she's like, one of those visits has to be a screening visit to get signed off. So she has her screening visit coming up, which someone's rescheduled. So she keeps taking time during her day to be like, I'm going to be prepared for this screening visit because I'm going to get signed off on the first one.
Mhm.
So we guide them with, again, giving them, this is where you have to be, and this is how we're going to help you with that. So we have a lot of like job aids that we have in place for things that can become automated, like scheduling, for example. There's, we use the CTMS. We have the instructions in writing with pictures and like, click here, do this, where it's like your brain space should be going towards more of the complex things, not something that can become so easily automated, which helps us a lot too, to like adding patients to the EHR, for example, is something that while we're training, we're able to be like, okay, you're going to be helping us add all the patients, like remove all the patients from the clinic's EHR, something that doesn't require a lot of research knowledge, but it's, the coordinators can still be working on helping us with other things so we can free up time to train them.
Yeah.
So I do most of the training myself. But we have, again, we have 3 other coordinators that can help us, and they get to decide, because I also, again, it's a lot of burden to be like, you're going to be seeing patients all day and also training other people. So they kind of decide where it's like, oh, they're really good at this, they want to be the ones who show the other coordinators that. So it's a lot different now than when it was just me, because
Oh
there are other
yeah.
people that there are other people around that can do a better job training them on certain things, so it's
Yeah. Me too. It's much better with them doing it than me because that's what they do full time. And with me, I had so many other things going on in my career, businesses that I could never focus on just one study.
right.
And so I knew that's just temporary until we get revenue to hire someone. It's way better with like me training and then Katie now training.
Mhm.
So this list that you give, you're the one who signs off on it, or
Whoever
others?
trains them.
Oh, whoever
Yeah,
trains them.
so at
Okay.
the end, I'm the one who signs off on them. But that's the thing too, that because as we hire more people and we get busier, I spend less time seeing patients. Now it's more like I jump in if needed to cover, but I'm not the coordinator for any of the studies. So what they're going to be doing is seeing patients. So we actually have them when they're in the visits with the coordinators shadowing, helping them with labs. The coordinators themselves are signing them off on the specific things.
I gotcha. So that makes a lot of sense. And then is this list the same for everyone, or do you?
The, the list is the same for everyone.
Okay.
For all research coordinators, a research assistant, there are things that they don't need to get signed off on, but we use the same list. So we basically compiled a list of anything that you would have to do as a coordinator, from scheduling, even the simple things as like the reminders of the appointments, anything that you may need to do, because that also helps us make sure that, okay, we did show you everything. Because before we would be, not every visit is the same, not every study is the same. We would be like, oh, okay, like cover this visit, right? And it would be like, oh, a pulse ox. That was
Yeah.
something that, the coordinator had been working on a study that didn't require it. And then she was just like, no one ever showed me how to do this. And I was like, you never had to do it up until now.
Yeah.
So that list also helps us keeps us in check to make sure that we're actually showing the coordinators everything that there may be to know, even if they're not exposed to it right away, so that when they're working with a patient, it's not the first time they're seeing it.
Yeah, I gotcha. And then there's more complex things that don't require, at least for me, that don't require the 3 months. We don't have this list, but it's basically the same thing. But the list is good. I like that. I'm gonna have Katie talk to you about that at
Yeah,
SOS.
it's been really helpful. Again, it's a big motivation for the coordinators that come in.
Yeah.
I haven't had anyone come in being like, I don't want to get through the list. I'm going to wait 3 months. Like everyone's like, how do I get signed off before?
Oh, so the incentive is like if you get through this list
Yeah.
quicker, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, we've given like that 3 months with our last two, Grecia and Lana. They got their 3 month period turned into two because this list that you have, we have it in our head. We checked it off in our heads, but it's nice to actually have it like
Yeah.
tangible.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I mean, there's just so much to what we're doing every day that we keep finding ourselves being like, oh, sorry, we never showed you that, right? And obviously there's the pressure once you're signed off to be like, you're already seeing patients on your own to realize when you're seeing the patient, like, oh, I actually don't know how to do this.
Yeah,
So it's helped us. And we do update it because I mean, as we get new studies, there may be new things that are we don't never had to do either. And this study
yeah,
requires. So we do update it like that. Where sometimes we actually just have to practice on each other, because we don't have a study that requires it, but we're like, just in case, so that
yeah.
that you do it is not in front of a
That's
patient, you're
cool.
not worried about it. But yeah, we kept forgetting a lot of things, during that time. So that's when we started our list. And it helps us, again, just to make sure we're covering everything, but it's a big motivator for the coordinators.
There's a lot that I haven't seen your list, but I can imagine what's on it. There's a lot that is not on that list that does come up later comes up with experience. For example, like SAEs. I mean, they're not that common.
Right.
Especially SAEs like potentially related to the IP or deviations. You may go 3 months in your probationary period, you don't see a deviation, but then month six, it's gonna happen, right? So that's like you kind of get more training on the
Mhm.
job. One of the, for us at least, for our staff, one of the last things they learn, I don't know why, but it's the navigating these IRB portals. Um, like it takes longer, I think, than 3 months for many to understand the concept of like if there's an amendment, you have to go see if the ICF is there in the portal. And it seems like those things, like that's an industry problem. I think that could be done better. But at least in my experience, those have been some things that like maybe extend that 3 month period.
Yeah, so for our coordinators, what we do is I still do regulatory. I actually really enjoyed regulatory.
Oh, you do? I hate
I,
that stuff.
I do. I know, and even the coordinators are like, just trying to figure out where everything goes. And I'm like, I am I don't mind having that on my plate. Um,
Wow.
but I know I actually really do enjoy it. Um, but part of what we do is make sure that the IRB and regulatory training for the coordinators, it's very specific to what they're going to need it for. So we don't necessarily focus on, like the protocol deviations. That's one that, I prepare them to, if this comes up, at least you know what it is. We'll work through it once it comes up for you. And they're like, I'm not going to get any protocol deviations. I'm like, yes, you will.
Everybody says
Yeah. And
that.
I'm like, and I tell them that, where I'm like, don't, it happens. That's why there's even a whole format of how to report a protocol deviation. But things like that, where we expose them to it, let them know, like, this may not come up for a while. Like SAEs, we have coordinators who have never even had to report an SAE. Knock on wood. So, but again, we do expose them so that when they hear SAE, even in the source or from a monitor that is not so new, that they know, okay, this is a
Yeah.
bad thing.
It's not intimidating and
Right, like, but that, like an SAE is bad. We need to. We haven't reported one before. We need to get help from like the manager or myself, right?
mhm.
When this comes up, so that they know that is coming.
Yeah.
But when it comes to regulatory IRB, again, that's very limited exposure to it. We would struggle with the whole, we let everyone know like there's a new consent, but then it would be so long before the patient was coming for a visit. So now how we've resolved that is every morning they check for the visits that they're doing that there's not a new consent
Hmm.
uploaded, just to make sure we don't miss a new consent. Because we do have it on our CTMS, but I'm
Oh,
like,
you upload it in the CTMS.
exactly. So I'm like, what
Okay.
if we haven't gotten like, because I do have well, the coordinator who's leaving was helping with regulatory, who's uploading things, right? Because sometimes we get so many things approved at the same time, but to make sure that we don't miss that informed consent and there's a lag between when it gets approved and it's uploaded, we just have everyone check the IRB so that they know, okay, like I have the IRB access to check for new consents. Everything else is going to come from the CTMS.
Yeah, yeah. What CTMS, systems do you guys use?
We are using real time.
Oh, okay. We're Creo. I haven't played around with real time, but I hear good things about it, too.
Yeah, I worked with Trio before. I've actually helped like other sites build source. That's
Ah,
something that
okay,
I do
okay.
too. I really like doing that as well. But I also think you know if the coordinators have a good source, they will have a good visit.
Yeah,
Regardless
yeah.
of how everything else goes. So I have worked with Trio too. I think they're very comparable. I um just what everywhere else we've started with the clinics didn't have had not done clinical research before, so all they know is CTMS.
Yeah.
Urology clinic, which is the busiest, we actually switched them from paper to a CTMS, and the investigator loves it.
It's
Like,
amazing. Like regardless of Creo versus real time, that's a dumb like rivalry that just there's so many sites using paper. Like just pick one of these things
yeah,
and use it. They're both really good.
yeah, it's made such a big difference. It's what honestly has allowed us to work at multiple clinics. Because there are clinics
Yes.
where we're getting labs signed and communicating with the doctors and they're signing off on things, you know, without us having to physically be there.
Mm.
Especially right now being so small with we have 7 clinics, 4 coordinators. There's no way to have a coordinator at every clinic. So having a CTMS, I think
Are you guys
it's a
doing
major reason.
the labs e-signed?
Yes.
Okay, we haven't done that yet. We're still printing and then uploading. But our
So
clinics are close enough to where just we go. But that's one thing we haven't like switched yet.
yeah, so it's helped us in that way too, because sometimes when the investigators are gone for a long time too, and it works different for every investigator, and I
Hmm.
think that's something that we also look for when we're interviewing people, someone who's going to have that flexibility, to adjust. Because and I tell them I'm like, well, some days we're gonna have 5, 6, 7 patients in the same clinic, right? Then the next day we might not have anyone, but even just adjusting to working with the different investigators. Not everyone works the same. There are investigators where we upload them. We know the same day everything will be signed. There are investigators that tell us, upload the labs and send me a text to let me know that I have something to sign.
Uh,
No one has shown saying send me an email to let me know something is there.
no.
That's that. Or some of them tell us like, okay, can you text me what the labs are? Like I'm more
Yeah.
comfortable just like looking at them than when I go in, like, and they'll let us know, like, okay, this is, you know, call the patient, do this. And then we show when we're in the clinic, we're like, okay, can you like go and write this notes
We
and
gotta start
on
doing
the
that.
labs? But yeah, like it's again, everyone works differently. So far we actually don't have any investigators who are like, no, I need you to physically show me what I'm gonna sign. So that's that's nice.
Ours do. We might need a switch because, and maybe we do it with this new cardiologist. Because we literally go unannounced to the clinics. They're all within 5 minutes of our main
That's nice.
hub. So you must spread out for sure, but all our clinics are like basically in the same place. 5 minutes from each other. Um, well, maybe the furthest one's like 7, but
Oh,
we just go unannounced and like with labs and we just sometimes wait and we're waiting like 30 minutes,
mm,
60 minutes till the doctor comes out, which is inefficient, but the benefit of that is you get to meet the staff too, like the MAs.
mhm,
You build
mhm.
a rapport with their clinic. So yeah, I do think that's next that we have to transition to because I think the pros outweigh the cons of doing that.
I think so. And again, we haven't gotten pushback so far,
Yeah.
but the investigators don't know paper labs, so that helps
Oh,
too. Where this is the only system they've known, and the investigator, the neurologist, has been doing clinical research for independently for 3 decades almost. So that was a transition that was most difficult. Where he would be like, "Why don't you just print it?" And I'm like, "Because then we're gonna do that for every study." And the
hmm.
incentive was, when you're not here, you can still sign them, and you're not gonna have them piling up. You don't have to print them where you're at, sign them, bring us the original back. Like
Yeah,
you just get to do it from anywhere. Now he loves it. Now
yeah.
we try to give him EKGs during the visits to just sign so we can upload it. He's like, no, put it in the system. I'll sign it in the system. And we're like, oh, okay.
We have this new study with, I won't mention the vendor. Definitely not gonna mention the sponsor because I love them, but the vendor I won't mention. But it's one of the labs, and they literally, I kid you not, their lab results are not like everything on one page and then then the next page. It's like one test per page. So
Ugh.
you get like 20 pages. You got to print out the PI signing all of them. It's like, why do they put everything separate? Like, so he's literally there like 20 pages, whereas another study would be like 4 or 5 pages max. This one's like 20, 21. Just one result on each page.
Yeah, even that. I mean, we've had investigators. We have a study where we get so many reports where it's like this is missing, and then the next report comes with like that in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So this investigator, because he's the busiest one and has multiple studies going, where he's like, okay, rather than uploading, tagging me, upload all of them at the end of the day. So when I get home, I can sign them all at the same day, at the same time.
Mm.
Because he's like, I'm just getting so many notifications. So what we do is like, okay, sign from lab 11 to 15, you have to review. And again, we're always having to adjust it because as the volume changes, how we're doing things is going to have to change as well. But I mean, I'm a big fan of the CTMS system. I think we're able to do what we do, how we do it, and have such great PI oversight because there's a way to do it remotely and not necessarily having to be everywhere at the same time.
I think this list thing is really cool. I think maybe that's the one of the takeaways, at least for me, listening to you, because we're basically everything's very similar, which is kind of cool that we don't even know each other and we basically run the sites the same way.
Well,
Uh,
I've been keeping up with what you do and watching your videos and your lives and your podcasts and everything. So, I mean, indirectly, well, directly actually, without meeting in person, I've learned a lot from you, not
thank you.
just about clinical research, but how to be a site owner, how to start up a site, and all of this other things. So,
Thank you. Well, I'm learning from you
yeah.
too, doing this podcast, and I think that the list, maybe that's something you can bring to SOS if
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
comfortable with it, and
Oh,
or the
yeah.
panel. That's a we won't get into the list on this podcast, but at SOS conference, saveoursites.com, Lucia will be there with the list talking about what's on it and how literally anyone can go implement that the next day at their site. And if you're not there, don't worry. These will all be recorded as well, like the sessions, and put on YouTube at some point. I don't know when.
Oh, that's awesome.
Trust me, it's better in person, guys and gals, but if you can't, we're gonna have everything or as close to everything as possible recorded.
Yeah,
So yeah.
we're getting ready for that. We already have some patients on the schedule for February 2nd. So we're trying to figure out, we're like, okay, who's going to help us get the infusion started so we can bring more coordinators.
Are you
So
guys all going, like your whole team, or who's
we
going?
cannot take the whole team because we do have patients
Yeah,
again that work and can only come in Fridays. We've been working with those visit windows for a minute, and just right before we went on break for holidays, we had to schedule some patients for the second. So far the research manager is for sure. The coordinator who's been here the longest is wanting to come with us because we
awesome.
we already mentioned it to her a while ago, so we cannot
Well, I
not
want to
be
meet her
excited.
after hearing about her story.
Yeah, so we're gonna have we are three of us are going for sure. We don't know who the fourth person is gonna be. And I'm also going with a research manager from another site and another site owner as well, actually, um that I've known since she was in college and we just
Hmm.
kept in touch.
I
So
know a few
I
sites in Phoenix. I know the Bianca. I know my boy
yeah.
Lee Eifler. I know they're all going. I
Yeah.
know the group from Oh gosh, they're in Scottsdale. Uh, they were on my podcast too. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting their name.
Or
But
is it like One Oak or something like
One
that?
Oak.
Yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
we go. One
Yeah.
Oak. I
I
knew the
haven't met
name
them.
was
I know
cool.
of them. They
They're
have some
going.
sites near this site.
Yeah, they it's been like over a year that I've actually met them in person, so my apologies to them for on the fly for getting the name. But yeah, One Oak, they're really cool people. Those
Yeah,
are the ones
I
I
knew you
know.
had them on your podcast at some point.
Yeah,
It's been a
yeah,
while.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was over a year ago now. Time
Yeah, it's
flies.
been a
But
while.
I remember when they came in, actually, we had no office outside of our clinic. Like we have a hub and spoke now where we have like a main office and then the clinics. We just had the clinic at that time and there was like no space where they came to meet us, but now we've changed a lot since then. So
Yeah,
and
we have our this site actually has become a little bit of our hub unofficially. We do have a an office space that we have set up, to be our hub, but we're so busy in the clinics, which is a good problem to have, but we don't really spend a whole lot of time there. So
us too, like
yeah.
us too, but I just negotiated with the landlord to give us more space. I negotiated, I think, a good deal and we we think of starting to see patient visits there because not all of our clinics are big enough to accommodate like multiple visits.
Mhm.
Maybe only one of them is. The others are, if we're lucky, well, one of them for sure, the psych and neurology, there's no room even to see one patient at a time. So we got to see all those patients off site. And
Okay.
the cardiologist, I will find out later today. You guys will see it on the vlog. But it's really cool, Lucio. It was really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Uh,
you.
it's nice to meet similar people, and thank you for being a panelist. I think we have enough like good stuff for the panel. I think. Do you feel good about it?
I missed the last meeting.
Oh yeah.
I had to cover visits. I had to
I don't
jump
even know when
in.
the next one is, honestly. But
Um, yeah.
do you feel good about the event though? Like you feel like you have enough to share? I think that list
Oh,
is gonna go a long
absolutely.
way.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think just last year I was invited to be a panelist. And again, this is something that I would always say no to because I'm like, I don't know, I don't know about public speaking. I don't, all those things, but I did it. And it was something that I was just like, oh my God, we have an hour. Are we even going to have enough content? And the hour was up and we
Yeah.
actually had to kind of get kicked out of the room
Yeah.
because if you're put in a room with people with similar interests and it's hard to actually stick to just 1 hour and um
Yes.
there's just
It's
so
hard to
much when
stick
it
to one
comes to
topic too, like just
yeah
doing this podcast with you.
and it's hard when it comes to like staffing and onboarding. I mean, we're always going to be finding ways to learn, how to do it better, how to improve, how to not do certain things again. So I'm comfortable. I think there's plenty of information, and it's going to be awesome to learn from other people too. Like I was at a conference with Nick. He was actually the panel right after mine had finished. And I just remember him because I was getting ideas of, like if you, because we have a large Hispanic population at one of the clinics where I'm like, okay, we have someone who's an interpreter on the line, right? If we don't have a coordinator who speaks Spanish, but like he has some great ideas about how to be able to cover those on multiple languages and not just Spanish. So I remember her from that meeting because then after that I got to talk to him and I was just like, oh my god, what he does is amazing. But that's
Yeah.
where I got to meet him. So I don't know. I think it's a great opportunity to learn from other people, but also just make connections with other sites. Like I like that it's very focused on the sites because
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the conference I want to go to. That's why we made it.
exactly.
Me and Brad and Fox, because they go more than I do, and they are like, "Hey, are you going to this one?" I always tell them the same thing. No, I don't go to any of those. I go to maybe an investigator meeting if I
Yeah.
haven't been to that city in a while or something, but no. And they're like, "Oh, we should make our own," in a joking way. And I was like, "Yeah, we would make our own, then I would go." And then that's kind of how this started. Is I'm sick of the BS that's out there with, I'm sure they're great for other things, networking, but we can get into that's another hour-long
And
podcast,
it's awesome
Lucia.
too that you're making it affordable. I mean, for
That's
there's
the
no way that I
thing.
can afford to take the coordinators to this other conferences, and I'm like, they're excited. They're excited to go, even though it's just Tucson. We're 2 hours away. We're making a road trip out of it. We're already trying to decide where dinner's going to happen afterwards. So
Ah, okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's gonna be
good.
good to meet you guys there and
Yeah,
meet my staff
it's
too.
cool to get them excited about it, not being like we have to go. Like no, they're like we're still deciding who else gets to go because we still have to cover
Yeah,
the
ours are pumped.
community.
We're actually paying them to go for that day because it's a Friday, so they're going Thursday. That's a paid day for them, but we're gonna have fun. Maybe they're gonna volunteer a little. I have to talk to them about that, but yeah, it'll be an interesting first event and many more to come. But thank you for being a panelist. Okay, everyone, Lucia's LinkedIn is underneath this video, so go connect with her and network. Look, this is just all we did was identifying and onboarding staff. We got to do part two on other things. Um, but and maybe one we'll do a podcast in person at some point. But thank
Yeah,
you so much for coming on and supporting the SOS.
thank you for having me. Glad to finally meet you virtually and look forward to meeting you in a month.
Yeah, they kept saying your name. I'm like, okay, everyone knows who you are except me.
I'm not very involved, and I try to like things and sometimes comment, but I'm still learning networking and social media and all that. I'm trying to get comfortable with it a little bit more.
Well, apparently me too, because yeah, I didn't know who you were, and everyone's like, yeah, no, no, we have to have her on.
Oh,
Okay, okay, sure.
thanks, Judy. Love her, love her.
Shout out to Judy. But thank you, Lucia. Everybody go connect, like, subscribe, comment, share. Go say hi to her at SOS. Take
Thank
care.
you so much for having me. Have a
Bye
great day.
bye.